In the small village of Kalo, a girl named Zara lived quietly with her mother. Zara was different from the other children. She had never cried, not even as a baby. While other children laughed, cried, and expressed all kinds of emotions, Zara remained silent. Her face showed no tears, not during happy times, not during sad ones. Her mother often told her, Zara, you're unique, and one day you will understand why. But Zara did not feel unique. She felt lonely, unsure why her heart never seemed to let her cry like everyone else. One terrible day, a fire broke out in the village of Kalo. The flames spread quickly, devouring the wooden homes and farmland. People screamed and ran, trying to save their belongings and loved ones. Zara and her mother escaped the fire with only the clothes on their backs. Smoke filled the air as homes crumbled to ash. The villagers cried over their losses. Some had lost family members, others their entire homes. Zara watched the flames flicker in the distance, her chest heavy, but as always, no tears came, no matter how much she tried to feel them. The villagers began to notice that Zara never cried, even in the saddest moments. She didn't even cry when her house burned down, one man whispered. Another woman added, she has never cried for anything, not even when her father passed away. The whispers spread like wildfire, and soon people began blaming Zara for the misfortunes in the village. Maybe she's the reason for the fire, someone said. Zara heard their words, but she kept silent, her heart heavy with sadness. She wanted to scream that it wasn't her fault, but no one would listen. One evening, the village elders gathered everyone in the town square. Zara was called to stand before them. The elders were wise and respected, and their decisions carried great weight. The oldest elder, a man with long white beard, stepped forward and spoke. Zara, we have watched you for many years. You are the only one who has never shed a tear, no matter what happens. This is not natural. Some villagers believe you bring misfortune to our land. Zara's heart raced as the elder's words sank in. She had never been so frightened. Zara tried to defend herself, but the elders did not listen. I did not cause the fire, she said, her voice trembling. I don't know why I can't cry, but I am not cursed. The elders shook their heads, their faces stern. We cannot risk the safety of the village, the elder with the white beard said. If you cannot explain why you are this way, you must leave Kalo. Tears are a sign of a pure heart. If you cannot cry, we cannot trust you. Zara felt like the ground beneath her was falling away. The elders gave Zara one last chance to prove herself. You must find out why you cannot cry. The elders said firmly, go on a journey to uncover the truth about your heart. If you can return with an answer, we will welcome you back. If not, you will be banished forever. Zara felt tears well up inside her, but not in her eyes, only in her chest, heavy and painful. She nodded silently. She did not know how to find the answer, but she knew she had to try. Her entire life in Kalo depended on it. That night, Zara sat with her mother under the stars. Her mother held her close, brushing Zara's hair gently. My sweet Zara, she said, her voice soft. I know you are not cursed. There is nothing wrong with you. But you must search for the answer and why you cannot cry. Maybe your heart has locked away something too painful to feel. You must find the key to unlock it. Zara whispered, but what if I can't? Her mother kissed her forehead. You are stronger than you know, my child. Trust yourself. The next morning, Zara left the village with only a small bag. Inside, she carried a little food, a clay bottle of water, and a scarf her mother had given her for comfort. As she walked down the dusty path, the villagers stood watching her. Some had pity in their eyes, while others looked relieved she was leaving. Zara kept her head high, even though she felt scared. She did not look back at the village, not even at her mother. She whispered to herself, I will find the answer no matter how far I have to go. Zara walked for hours, her feet dusty and sore, as the village disappeared behind her. The sun was hot and the wind carried the smell of dry grass. Zara did not know where she was going, only that she had to find answers. As she walked, she thought about the villagers' words. Were they right? Was there something wrong with her? She shook her head. I am not cursed, she said firmly, even though doubt crept into her heart. Ahead, she saw the edge of a forest, its tall trees promising shade and mystery. The forest was dark and quiet, with only the sound of rustling leaves. Zara stepped carefully, her eyes scanning for danger. She had heard stories about wild animals and strange creatures living in the woods. As she moved deeper, the air grew cooler and the trees seemed to whisper. Zara felt a shiver run down her spine, but she kept walking. She didn't know what she was looking for, but she hoped the forest held some kind of clue. Please, she whispered, help me find out why I can't cry. Suddenly, Zara heard a rustling sound nearby. She froze, her heart pounding in her chest. The bushes ahead of her shook, and she held her breath, waiting to see what would appear. A small animal darted out, a rabbit with a soft grey fur. Zara exhaled in relief and laughed quietly at herself. You're just a rabbit, she said, but her laugh quickly faded when she noticed something strange. The rabbit's eyes were filled with tears, tiny drops glistening in the light. Zara stared, wondering, why can a rabbit cry but I cannot? As Zara continued through the forest, she found herself thinking about the rabbit. It looked so small and sad, and yet it could cry. Zara touched her own cheeks, dry and worn from the sun. Why can't I cry? She asked aloud, her voice echoing through the trees. She thought about her father, about the fire, and about the villagers who did not trust her. Her chest felt heavy, as if a big stone was pressing down on her, but still no tears came. Zara sighed and kept walking, determined to find answers. The sun was setting when Zara found a small stream. She knelt by the water, scooping it into her hands to drink. The water was cool and refreshed, and she washed her face, hoping it could help her feel better. As she rested, she noticed something shiny in the stream. It was a small, smooth stone with a strange swirl pattern on it. Zara picked it up and held it close, feeling its cool surface. She decided to keep it even though she did not know why. It felt special, like it might guide her later on. Zara followed the stream as the sky turned orange and purple. The water babbled softly and the sound comforted her. Maybe the stream will lead me somewhere important, she thought. The forest grew quieter and shadows stretched longer. Zara felt a little scared but kept going. She thought about her mother's words. You're stronger than you know. She whispered them to herself, holding the stone tightly in her hand. The stream curved ahead, and Zara quickened her pace, hoping to find something or someone who could help her understand her heart. As night fell, Zara came to a clearing with an old wooden hut. The hut looked worn but cozy, with smoke curling from its chimney. A faint light glowed from inside, and Zara felt a mix of hope and nervousness. She knocked on the door, her hand trembling slightly. The door creaked open, and an old woman with kind eyes and silver hair peered out. Who are you, child? The woman asked. Zara hesitated before saying, my name is Zara. I'm trying to find out why I cannot cry. The old woman invited Zara inside, offering her a warm seat by the fire. The hut smelled of herbs and something sweet cooking in a pot. The woman, who introduced herself as Nala, listened carefully as Zara told her story. Zara explained the fire, the villagers' anger, and her journey to understand her heart. Nala nodded, her eyes thoughtful. Sometimes the heart locks away things it doesn't want to feel, Nala said. Your tears may be hiding behind a memory or a fear you haven't faced yet. Zara leaned closer, curious but unsure. Nala gave Zara a bowl of soup and sat beside her. Tell me about your father, Nala said gently. Zara's hands tightened around the bowl. She thought of her father's warm smile and the way he used to laugh. He died when I was little, Zara said quietly. I remember the day he didn't come home, but I don't remember crying. Everyone else cried, but I just felt empty. Nala nodded. Sometimes the hardest thing to face is the pain we've buried deep inside, but facing it is the only way to set it free. Zara stayed with Nala that night, sleeping on a soft mat by the fire. As she lay there, staring at the flickering flames, her mind raced with thoughts. Could her inability to cry really be because of her father's death? She didn't want to believe it, but deep down she felt a twinge of something. Sadness, maybe, or fear. She touched the stone she had found by the stream, its smooth surface cool in her hand. I will figure this out, she whispered to herself before drifting off to sleep. The next morning, Nala gave Zara a map and some advice. Follow this path through the forest, she said, pointing to a small trail marked on the map. It will lead you to the Mountain of Echoes. Many people go there to face their deepest fears. If you're brave enough, you might find the answers you're looking for. Zara thanked Nala and set off once again. The map rolled tightly in her hand. She did not know what she could find at the mountain, but she was ready to try. Zara followed the trail Nala had marked, the forest growing denser around her. The sunlight barely peeked through the tall trees, and the air was filled with chirping of unseen birds. The path twisted and turned, sometimes disappearing under leaves and branches. Zara kept the map close, checking it often. As she walked, she thought about what Nala had said. Face my fears? She murmured. What does that even mean? She felt a mix of determination and worry, but she tightened her grip on the smooth stone in her pocket and kept going. Hours passed and Zara grew tired, but she did not stop. Her legs ached from climbing small hills, and her stomach grumbled for hunger. The trail led her to a rocky clearing where she decided to rest. Sitting on a large stone, she pulled out the last piece of bread her mother had packed. As she ate, she looked at the map again. The Mountain of Echoes wasn't far now, but the trails ahead looked steep and difficult. Zara felt a flicker of doubt. Can I really do this? She wondered. As Zara rested, she heard the crunch of footsteps behind her. She quickly turned, her heart racing, and she saw a boy about her age. He wore a worn shirt and carried a small bag. Who are you? Zara asked, standing up. The boy smiled. My name is Kato. I am traveling to the Mountain of Echoes, he said. Zara hesitated but then asked, Why are you going there? Kato shrugged. I want to find courage. They say the mountain helps people face their fears. Zara nodded, deciding it might be safer to travel together. Zara and Kato walked side by side, sharing stories as they went. Kato told her about his village, which was far away, and how he had run away after a big argument with his family. I was too afraid to say I was sorry, he admitted. Zara told him about her village, the fire, and why she needed to find out why she couldn't cry. Kato looked at her curiously. Maybe your tears are hiding, he said simply. Zara thought about his words as they walked, wondering if they could be true. The trail grew steeper as they neared the mountain. Rocks jutted out of the ground, and the air felt thinner. Zara and Kato climbed carefully, helping each other over the rougher parts. Zara's arms ached from pulling herself up, and she didn't complain. She glanced at Kato, who was breathing heavily but smiling. We are almost there, he said, pointing to the mountain's peak ahead. Zara nodded, feeling a mix of excitement and nervousness. The Mountain of Echoes was closer now, and she wondered what she would find there. As they reached the mountain's base, Zara and Kato found a cave entrance. The cave was dark and wide, with a faint wind whistling from inside. This must be it, Kato said, stepping closer. Zara hesitated, feeling a chill run down her spine. The cave seemed to breathe, as if it were alive. Kato turned to her and said, Are you ready? Zara took a deep breath and nodded. Let's go, she said, gripping the stone in her pocket for comfort. Together they stepped into the darkness. Inside the cave, the air was cold, and their footsteps echoed loudly. The walls shimmered faintly, reflecting the light from Kato's small lantern. What do we do now? Zara asked, her voice shaky. Kato pointed ahead. We keep going. The echoes will find us. Zara frowned, not understanding what he meant, but she followed him deeper into the cave. Suddenly, a soft voice called out, Zara! She froze. her heart pounding. Did you hear that? She asked Kato. He nodded, looking uneasy. The voice called again, Zara, and it sounded like her father. Zara's legs trembled as the voice grew louder. It was soft and warm, just as she remembered her father's voice. Zara, why didn't you cry for me? The voice asked. Zara gasped, her hands shaking. I don't know, she whispered. Tears threatened to rise, but they did not come. Kato stepped closer, touching her shoulder. It's not real, he said. It's the mountain trying to show you something. Zara nodded, swallowing hard, but the voice continued. You were brave, Zara, but you locked your heart away. You need to let it out. As they moved deeper, Zara and Kato heard more voices. Kato heard his mother's voice, calling him back home. Why didn't you apologize? The voice asked him. Kato clenched his fist. His face became pale. Zara wanted to comfort him, but she did not know what to say. The echoes filled the air, surrounding them like invincible walls. Zara's chest felt heavy, and her breath became quicker. We have to keep going, she said firmly, though her hands were shaking. Kato nodded, wiping his face as they pressed on. The cave opened into a wider chamber with a shimmering pool in the center. The water was perfectly still, reflecting their faces like a mirror. Kato stepped closer and said, This must be it. Zara knelt by the pool, feeling a strange pull towards it. Her reflection stared back at her, but then it changed. She saw herself as a little girl standing by the river near her village. Her father was there, smiling at her. Tears welled up in her heart. But still, they did not come. Why can't I cry? She whispered. The reflection shifted, showing a memory Zara had buried deep. She saw herself as a child, standing on the riverbank, crying for help. Her father ran to save her as she slipped into the water. He pulled her out but was swept away by the strong current. Zara watched, horrified as the memory replayed. It was my fault, she whispered, her voice breaking. I couldn't save him. Kato knelt beside her and said, It wasn't your fault, Zara. You were just a child. Zara shook her head, guilt weighing her down. The water rippled and Zara felt a tear slip down her cheek. It was small, but it was real. She touched her face, surprised. I'm crying, she whispered. The guilt she had carried for so long seemed to melt away, replaced by a deep sadness and relief. Kato smiled at her and said, You did it, Zara. You let it out. Zara nodded, more tears flowing. For the first time in her life, she felt the weight lift from her heart. She had unlocked the emotions she had hidden for so long. The cave began to hum softly, as if it were alive. The voices grew quieter, fading into the background. Zara and Kato sat by the pool, letting the calm wash over them. Zara thought about her father and the love he had shown her. He wouldn't want me to carry this pain forever, she said. Kato nodded. And your tears are proof that you don't have to anymore. Zara smiled, wiping her face. She finally understood that crying didn't mean weakness. It meant healing. She felt stronger than ever. As they left the cave, Zara and Kato felt lighter, as if a burden had been lifted. The forest outside was bright with morning light, the leaves rustling gently in the breeze. Zara looked at the sky and whispered, Thank you, Papa. Kato smiled at her and said, What will you do now? Zara thought for a moment and replied, I will go back to my village and show them that I've changed. Kato grinned. I think they will see how strong you are. Together they began the journey back, their steps lighter than before. When Zara returned to Kalo, the villagers were surprised to see her. They gathered in the square, whispering among themselves. Zara stood tall, her heart no longer burdened by fear or guilt. I found the reason I couldn't cry, she said loudly. I had locked my heart away because of my father's death, but I faced the truth and now I can cry. To prove it, she let a single tear fall, and the villagers gasped. For the first time, they saw her as human, not as someone strange or cursed. The elders stepped forward, their faces serious but kind. The eldest one with a long white beard said, Zara, you have shown great courage. You faced your fears and unlocked your heart. We were wrong to judge you. The other villagers nodded, some looking ashamed. Zara's mother stepped forward, tears in her eyes, and hugged Zara tightly. "You've come back stronger," she said, her voice full of pride. Zara smiled, feeling love and acceptance for the first time in a long while. The villagers welcomed Zara back with open arms. They listened as she shared her journey, her voice steady and full of emotion. She told them about the mountain of echoes, the memories she had faced, and how she had learned to cry. The villagers were amazed by her bravery and realized they had been unfair to her. "We judged you without understanding," one woman said. "You've taught us that crying is not a weakness, but a strength." Zara felt warmth in her heart, knowing she was finally understood. Zara's life in Kalo became brighter and more joyful. She no longer felt like an outcast. The children played with her, and the adults smiled at her, and her mother looked at her with pride every day. Zara still did not cry often, but when she did, it felt freeing. She learned that tears weren't something to fear, they were a way to heal and grow. The villagers no longer whispered behind her back. Instead, they admired her courage and strength. Zara felt like she had truly come home. One day, Zara visited the river where her father had died. She sat down by the water, letting the memories come. This time, she did not push them away. She thought about her father's smile, his laughter, and the love he had given her. Tears streamed down her face, but they didn't feel heavy. They felt like a release, like she was finally honoring his memory. "Thank you, Papa," she whispered, her voice steady. She stood up feeling lighter than she had ever felt before, ready to face the future with hope. Kato visited Zara in Kalo. A few months later, he had returned to his village, apologized to his family, and found his courage. "You were right," he told Zara. "Facing my fears changed everything." Zara smiled, glad to see her friend happy. They sat under a tree sharing stories about their lives. Kato said, "You taught me something important, Zara. Tears don't make us weak, they make us human." Zara nodded, knowing it was true. Together they laughed and talked, their friendship stronger than ever. Zara's story became a legend in the village of Kalo. Parents told their children about the girl who couldn't cry and how she found her strength by unlocking her heart. Zara grew up to be a leader in the village, known for her kindness and wisdom. She never forgot her journey and the lessons she learned. Whenever someone felt sad or scared, Zara would remind them, "Tears are not a curse, they're a gift." And with those words, she helped others find their own strength just as she had found hers. Thank you so much for watching. If you got to this point, please give this video a thumbs up. It will help grow my small YouTube channel. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do well to subscribe and turn on post notifications so you get notified when I post more interesting content like this. Please leave a comment in the comment section. Let me know about your thoughts on these stories. If you haven't gone through my channel to see more important stories and interesting stories, do well to go through my channels and watch other interesting content as well. See you guys in my next video. Bye.